Well, this morning we have two special guests, and we're going to talk about French, the French language, and in particular, street French. And to talk about street French, I have here Maya and Charlie from Paris, and they have a YouTube channel which teaches people how to speak street French. So perhaps I could ask you to introduce yourselves.
Salut.
Salut, hi.
My name's Charlie.
And I'm Maya, and I'm French.
And I'm American, and we both live in Paris.
Right. And we started street French,
What
especially
will-
because of you, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like my story about how I learned French in school and how I wasn't very effective in real life situations. And I got really into learning like slang and just like that really casual way that a lot of people speak in everyday life.
Now, for me, of course, that's backwards because I'm not very good at street French.
Oh, okay.
But I'm the same as you in the sense that I didn't really learn it at school, but I learned it when I got interested in French civilization, French culture, and I studied in France for 3 years. But and I should say that after this video, we're going to do another one for their channel where they're going to challenge my knowledge of street French and slang, and I will do very poorly. But so tell me. Is it that you want people to learn the slang, or is it that so many people are interested in slang that kind of brings them to the language?
It's a little bit of both. A lot of our clients, they come to either study in France or they come here for work, and they find that they're not very effective at speaking the language because they only learn textbook French. And they find that people speak very differently in real life.
Right.
Yeah, I guess it's not only focusing on slang words, but it's more the spoken language that is pretty different from literature and everything you find in textbooks.
So what are your techniques? How do you help people acquire the spoken language?
Something that we tell people that's probably the most important thing is to speak with someone. You have to have a friend, at least one person that you could practice with fairly regularly. And I find people are really just stuck in textbooks and they're, trying to do their homework and they don't practice actually using the language. And so it makes sense that they're not very good at it when they try to hold a conversation.
Yeah. Usually they think they can learn a lot of things and then just like, okay, I'm going to start talking now and it's going to work out on its own, but it's something you need to practice too.
So a couple of questions. First of all, if someone lives in Boston or Buffalo, New York, how do they find someone to talk to?
Oh, the interesting thing about that is I used to live in LA, that's where I'm from, and I found a group on meetup.com. And it was a group of people learning French. They were most of them were Americans, or they weren't like native speakers, but they knew more than me. And just going there every week for like 2 years really helped me a lot. It helped me learn how to converse.
That's very interesting because, we have meetups here in Vancouver as well in different languages, Japanese, Korean, Chinese, French probably. And they also have this Mundo Lingo. Have you heard of them?
No.
And there's also the Polyglot group in Paris. There are groups that one can find on the internet where you can get together with people that it's either language exchange or things of that nature. Okay, so meetup.com. What other bits of advice do you provide to people?
Like to find someone to practice with?
Well, or no, you said, okay, first of all, find someone to practice with regularly. Meetup.com, I should say, is only just one example of that.
Yeah. You could also find someone like to Skype with. There are different websites where like conversationexchange.com, I think that's what it's called. I work with someone who's, she's a grandmother, she's retired, she's at home, and she has like 4 or 5 friends in France that she met on that site, Conversation Exchange. And they just chat on Skype, regularly. And I just saw her, she's made like a lot of improvements in about a year. She's pretty conversational now. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So are there sort of particular sort of phrases or aspects of the language that you teach or stress in your videos?
Yeah, actually let's say like the ebooks you wrote and we worked on together, we kind of leave out some parts of the French language that we don't use in spoken French, like for example some tenses like passé simple or things like that you're never ever going to hear a French person use in spoken French with friends or even in formal situations. It's like in French you have like spoken French, then you have formal, like to be polite, and then you have like super high level formal that's like way too much. And that's what we try to like avoid. And
I see.
Yeah, like one example, a lot of times people say comment dit-on, like when they want to ask what something means. And the average French person is probably not going to say it like that. They'll say comment dire.
Right.
Yeah. And so we show them differences like that.
Or like asking questions.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So in your typical video, then you would take some examples and then show how they're used. Is that how it's done?
Sometimes. I mean, we do all kinds of videos. Sometimes we just have a conversation or we just discuss like a different topic. Or we have one video where we talk about why you shouldn't use inversions in conversation. I mean, if you want to, it's just that most French people don't use inversions when they speak in everyday life.
Yeah, we either give tips like that, or we try to make videos and lessons, and actually our private lessons we do that like that too. We start from the conversation and we make it a lesson. So okay, I want to say this, or let's say you watch a video and they said a certain things, why did they say it like that? We always like focus on that, like on I react to some celebrities speaking French. Oh, they said that's interesting, or they could have said this better, like more natural, etc. More naturally.
So are your videos then essentially all in French?
No, a lot of them are in English. Some of them are lessons. Some of them are in French. Some of them are, Maya reacting to a French to a celebrity speaking French.
Yeah, we mix.
Okay, so those that are in French, do you provide transcripts or subtitles?
The ones that are in French?
Yes.
Some of our vlogs have subtitles. Some of them don't.
Yeah, we would like to have more, but as long
it's a lot of work.
Yeah. We'll try to hire someone who can do the transcript for us too, and have more people in the team.
Yeah, no, I mean, my experience in France was that, I went over to France in the 60s and I studied there for 3 years. And, but I agree with you, textbooks are hopeless because the writers of the textbook think that they can teach you a certain structure with this, lesson, this text. And of course, we gradually pick up these different structures. We don't necessarily learn something because it was included in this particular lesson.
Exactly.
So I'm a great believer. I'd certainly agree with you that you have to speak a lot. And you pick up a lot when you're speaking with people because you hear how they're speaking. But I'm also, as you may know if you've seen my videos, I'm a great believer in lots of input, lots of listening and reading, but it has to be things of interest. And you're quite right. You have to notice, or perhaps someone has to point out to you that in the written language they use the passé simple, which isn't used in the spoken language. So, but I agree with you. You have to get out there and use it. But in order to use it, you have to have a certain amount of vocabulary. You can't just start from ground zero. Otherwise, you can't understand what people are saying. You can't say anything. So I think it's a combination, at least in my approach, a combination of
definitely.
Lots of listening and reading, and now, do people that come to you, like, are some of them sort of intimidated about speaking, afraid to speak? And if so, how do you deal with that? What advice do you give them?
Well, I tell them to try to envision the conversation before it happens, right? Like, I tell someone, okay, you're going to go to a meetup. You're going to get past hello. Then you're going to, you ask them how their name, you ask them what their name is. This is how you do it. After that, you'll probably say, on peut se tutoyer. Est-ce qu'on peut se tutoyer? Can we use tu with each other, right?
Right.
And then after that, okay, maybe you'll ask them if they had a good day, or if they had a good weekend. And then after that, it's only natural that they ask you. So prepare, something to respond to that. And it's just a lot of practice. And then maybe it might not go perfectly well the first time, but it was practice. And the next time it'll go better and that kind of thing.
I guess it also helps them that they can go back and forth between like going out, having real conversation, and having like a feedback, or like how do you say, like a check, or like a sum up, like in a lesson, like okay, I couldn't say this, or they can really analyze what they don't feel alone. That's basically
who provides that analysis? You provide that?
Yeah, like the private lessons we do with people.
Oh, I see. So you offer private lessons where they can talk about some of the problems they had, things they weren't able to express or didn't understand.
Well, our lessons are really focused on conversation, right? We'll have the person speak about whatever they're into, or for sometimes someone wants to practice like a job interview, or if they, they're just coming to like travel around France for a bit. Okay, this is what you need to order in a restaurant. This is what you need to ask where the restrooms are. and that sort of thing.
Right.
It's really a custom lesson. Everyone is different.
Right. Okay. And so where are most of your customers located?
Really all over the world. We have we give Skype lessons, and we have students everywhere. Yeah, probably mostly the U.S., Australia.
Yeah, I guess our audience
Right.
on YouTube is mostly from the U.S. On Instagram, there's a lot of people who are from Iran or India,
Yeah.
or like there's people all over the world, really.
Okay. Now, another question. French as a language. I mean, it used to be the diplomatic language. It had a very high level of prestige, and recently, it seems like the whole world is learning English, and then you get people who want to learn Chinese or Japanese, and what's the appeal of French? Why do people want to learn French? I mean, I love French, but I'm just wondering what is the status of French in terms of its level of popularity and the reasons why people learn it
That's
today?
interesting. I think it's really personal. What we saw in everyone we met, they all had either like they wanted to get in touch with their origins, like they had family centuries ago in France and they wanted to explore that. Others wanted to come to France to work because, I don't know, one was from Greece and really feels attached to the European culture. I guess she worked in Germany, but she didn't really like it there. She preferred the French, the French culture, I guess. It really is so personal from person to person.
Yeah, I've even had some like doctors and nurses on their way to Africa to work with like Doctors Without Borders. They'll take a couple lessons with us before they start their humanitarian work down there.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not like one appeal for everyone, like Chinese. Oh, it could be good for business, or English too. But French is more like, I don't know, it's more precious. It's more personal, I feel.
Yeah. No, it's a lovely language, and I mean, personally, I was attracted in the '60s by the culture, la nouvelle vague, the films and stuff,
Right.
and I lived there in the '60s. It was magic. I was in Grenoble for 1 year, and then 2 years in Paris.
Oh, nice.
I had a bicycle. I had the chambre de bonne, and I bicycled off to Sciences Po every day, crossing la Place de la Concorde on my bicycle, dodging cars.
Oh yeah, it
It
was
was
already
fabulous.
crazy back then, because it's still crazy today.
Once you reach that level of crazy, you can't get crazier. So you've got the car on the inside trying to get to the outside, and I'm there in between, hoping to survive every morning.
Exactly.
But no, I loved it. I loved it, absolutely. Oh, that's great. I think it's great that you're promoting French. I think it's great that I think people have to kind of get a sense of how people use the language. And you're quite right. Very often the books don't provide that. Movies don't even provide that. I find sometimes the dialogue in movies, and that's in any language, the sitcoms, whatever, it's artificial. So it's not really how people use the language. So yeah, if you can help people, sound like they're natural, and here's another question. To use the language the way people use it makes the native speaker feel more comfortable.
Exactly.
But it doesn't require a perfect accent,
Yeah,
in my
exactly.
experience.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think people are far too obsessed with accent, whereas really it's the word choice and how they express themselves that matter.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you find that your customers or your people you deal with are a little obsessed with accent, or not necessarily so
Some of them can feel very self-conscious about their accent. And I keep telling them that it's fine. I mean, we all know someone who speaks English or like their native language with an accent, but we can understand them more or less fine.
Right.
And it's just really about putting yourself out there and just trying.
Exactly. And not only, I mean, I've dealt with so many non-native speakers of English in business, and it's not just that we don't mind their accent. When we hear someone use the language well with an accent, I'm always impressed at how well they use the language. The accent is almost irrelevant. If I find someone who's, hi, Steve, slaps me on the back and thinks he's being very, Canadian or something, but he can't speak very well, I'm not very impressed. So,
it's
getting
just a caricature, right?
Exactly, it becomes a caricature. Okay, well, we will leave details to your YouTube channel and any other relevant information in the description box. it's always good to connect up with language entrepreneurs who are promoting the learning of different languages. And now for your channel, you're gonna quiz me on my knowledge of slang, and I think I'm gonna do very poorly. But I never worry about putting myself out there, as you said.
That's great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much too. Bye.